本期视频是一位油管知名博主为中俄没有在昨天举行的诺曼底登陆纪念日受到公正评价而发声，直言中俄作为在二战中损失最惨重的国家，被西方刻意低估，而这次纪念活动更像是一场动员大会。我们看看他是怎么说的吧。
Today, 7th June, is the day following the commemorations in France of the D-Day landings, which took place in June 1944, and which played a role in the eventual collapse of the German dictatorship that had exercised sway over Europe for the first half of the 1940s. A dictatorship whose extraordinary brutality and cruelty, well, it would be superfluous to discuss on a programme like this. The commemoration was interesting in that Russia, which played by far the single greatest contribution to the Allied victory of the Second World War, was not invited to participate, whereas Ukraine, which of course participated in the Second World War as a component republic of the Soviet Union, and which had no independent existence at that time, was, more interestingly, some of the political speeches, including President Biden's speeches, made what I thought were singularly inappropriate parallels between the situation in the world today and the situation in June 1944. I myself would have felt far more comfortable if a commemoration of this kind, which does commemorate an important event in the history of the Second World War, but only one event amongst others which were arguably at least as important, the Soviet victory in Stalingrad, for example, or the Soviet victory at the Battle of Kursk, just to give a few examples. And one could find other events of the Second World War that took place in China as well, which arguably were of equal importance. Anyway, events like that in the West received no attention at all. I think it would have been far more appropriate and far more proper, including proper towards the few remaining veterans of the D-Day landings, to use these events to speak about world peace, to talk about the need for nations to come together, to talk principally about common humanity, the kind of shared humanity that all nations have. The rather confrontational speeches, the very political speeches, including the one that was made by the United States President at this event, seemed to me frankly unhelpful. Now, there is one observer to these events, observer who is, of course, a major participant in the Second World War, but is at the same time a remote observer to events which took place in Europe, and that is China. Now, China's role in the Second World War is one that is consistently, massively underreported in the West, to an even greater extent than the Soviet contribution to the Allied victory in the Second World War is. Suffice to say that the two countries that suffered by far the heaviest losses in the defeat of the Axis powers over the course of the Second World War were the Soviet Union and China, which is something which I think might surprise many Westerners, even though it is a massive and incontrovertible fact. Anyway, the Chinese have been observing these commemorations in Normandy, and Global Times newspaper, which, as we know, to a great extent reflects the opinions of the Chinese authorities, published an editorial. And I'm going to read the opening paragraph because I think it actually captures the reality of the commemoration which took place yesterday. The opening paragraph reads as follows. On June 6th, the 80th anniversary commemoration of the Normandy landings, often referred to as D-Day, was held in the coastal region of Vers-sur-Mer, Calvados, France, with over 20 Western leaders in attendance. Although this significant commemorative event is likely to be recorded in history as the last quinquennial or decennial anniversary surviving veterans participated, some commentators suggested that this commemoration has garnered more attention due to the heightened international tensions. The high-profile guests and politically charged speeches at the event, intertwined with increasingly geopolitical content, have led some to question whether this is a genuine commemorative event or a mobilization campaign under the guise of unity. I have to say, I think Global Times has got it this time exactly right. I express my sorrow about this. I repeat again that I do not believe that this is the correct way either to remember the events of 80 years ago or to remember the sacrifices that were made on those events 80 years ago, or to honour the few surviving veterans that are left. But that, my own feeling as well, is what happened. A mobilization campaign more than a genuine commemoration.